Right, I'm going to go skip over the edit tab for now because it'll make more sense a bit later. So I'm going to go for the layout tab next because we want to get the structure of our page right first. Okay. Now I'm going to go for the width option here. This is going to give me the option of changing the width of the actual the sheet here, the actual page itself. Again, because I've got quite a large screen, there'll be a bit of space to the right and the left of it, right? Now, depending on who your audience is, if you like, who's going to be visiting your website, will depend on the size of page that you want. Most people nowadays will have a screen size, and it's more the width that you want to focus your attention on, because it's the width that you don't really want to be scrolling. People are quite used to scrolling up and down a web page, but it's really annoying to scroll right and left. So you can have a long web page like this where the text doesn't all fit on it and people will scroll up and down, but scrolling right and left is an absolute no-no. So you want to make sure that the width that you select for your page fits on the majority of people's screens. So I would go for 1000 pixels wide, assuming you're not going to do anything fancy with the page borders. There we go. Because most people's screens are 1024 pixels wide, which means there's a little bit of space on the right and a little bit of space on the left. Because it's in the center, it'll pretty much be flush with either side of their screen. Like I say, because I've got a great big screen, you know, there's space here which you won't see on the main site, and there's also space for all this, which is why you want to select a background. When we get to the background section, which is here, it's a good idea to design your background just in case people do have big screens. You don't want them just sat there with a poor color match or whatever. Okay. Right, this design layout thing, this kind of does a lot of work for us as well. If we drop it down, we've got all these different options. There's this thing here. It says, do you want a fixed width site or do you want a fluid site? A fluid width is like, if you go to width here, you can actually have it as a percentage. So if I selected 100%, this would stretch to the available screen size like that. And people with different size screens, it would look different. So if I just do this sort of stuff, if I just take my steer off minimize a sec, this is what would happen. People with bigger screens, you know, it would stretch the whole thing. This is not a particularly good idea in my opinion, because you can't predict what the page is going to look like. It will look different on everyone else's, every different people's screens. And things like when you think a sentence is going to end there on someone else's screen that's bigger, it might not. There might be 2 or 3 extra words on the line before it wraps around to the next line, and you end up with big gaps like this and big gaps like this, and you can't really predict exactly how it's going to look on everyone's screen. So I much prefer, it's safer and better design if you just go for a fixed width, because then you can be absolutely sure, as long as they can get 1000 pixels on their screen, it'll look like this, yeah, because it won't move around at all. However you design it will be how it looks. Right, let's go to the design layout thing again. At the moment we've got all these different options. The basic option, you can just, again, if you wave over these things, it will preview them. That's going to take away the header and whatever else. What I'm going to go for is a fixed design, and what I'd like is, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a header, and I'm looking for a menu underneath the header, but that will all be inside the sheet. So if I just, because I've waved over it, so it's previewed it, and if I click, it'll save that for me. So you see the header here, the blue and the menu. It's inside the sheet, as you can see there. We don't have to have that white border. We can change that later, but this is how I want it. And with Artisteer, generally speaking, these sort of options, like the design layout, it changes everything all at once for you. And if you think that's kind of how I want it, but I just want to tweak the details, you can break it down. So like header and then position, it will let you think, let's say a page width. If we do that, it'll let us do this kind of thing. If you go to the position thing, you can just change the position of the header without changing the sizing of it and things like that. There we go. Like I was saying, you can just change the smaller and smaller details about it and say, no, that's not what I'm looking for. but it's not changing the overall structure of it, if you see what I mean. Which one did I want? Well, that one's a bit different. Now the menu's gone inside that. No, don't really want it like that. No, don't want it too far away either. Kind of like that. Could do it without header. No, don't want it like that either, because then I won't be able to put my logo in. So I think the one I had it originally was the right one, which was that one, yeah. So I'll just keep it that way. And again, feel free to play with it all you want, yeah. And here's the menu options. If you want an outline to your menu or whatever, you can just play around with it until you get one that you like. Right, the columns section here. This is what I was saying about the various or the most popular page layouts. You've got the single column design, which will take away the sidebar like that. That's fine if you've got a lot to say on a page. Absolutely fine if that's right for you. If you've got less content on the page, you might want to have a sidebar of some kind. You don't have to have a horizontal menu either. If I just click that for a second, you don't have to have your menu here. We can get rid of that. We can have the menu down the side as well if you want to. Modern website designs have menus at the top like this, horizontal ones, but feel free to do whatever you want to do with yours. And we put the sidebar on the right like this, and if you have a lot of stuff in the sidebar, you can go for a 3-column design with 2 sidebars like that. Or you can do this it's more of a blog type layout where you have 2 sidebars on the right. I personally don't like that one. I pretty much prefer to stick with one of these like this. I'm just going to go for a right sidebar because I want my main navigation here, I want my content to be the main focus, and I want these little widget sections to be available on all the different pages. But I want people to see this, start reading from the left and go to the right. So once you're happy with that, you can click on column width, and how wide do you want the sidebar to be? So we can have it wide, 275. We can have it small, 200 pixels. And if you don't like any of the built-in options, you can always go right down to the bottom, click on width options, and it will give you even more control, like this. So here's the column width. We can just type in whatever number we want, or slide this thing up and down. So if I say I want 347 pixels wide for my sidebar, then there it is, right? Ordinarily, you can just stick with these options because they're there for a reason. They're the most popular ones. Like that, there we go. And you can mess around with these options. Do we want a top outline? Say yes if you want to see what it looks like. That hasn't really done anything given the setup that we've got, so I'll turn it off again. And you see this column styling. Let me just get rid of this sidebar here. Column styling is like if you want a background to it. You see here that you can have it with a colouring, you can have it without a colouring, you can have it with a line down it, like that, separate it, different kind of line down it, like that, spacing to the top. All these other options you can use as well. I'm just going to leave it as it is at the moment. Next is this margin option. This is how much space you want between the main information and the sidebar and the menu. So we can just go here. If we selected 50 pixels, it would give you a big gap in between the two, like that, right? You might want that for some reason or other. It's entirely up to you. And you can see it gives you a little preview of how far away it is. If you wanted no margin at all, it would be like that. And here, if you wanted no margin, actually no outline either, it would. We haven't got an outline, so it doesn't actually show you that. But I want no margin with mine, so I'll just click no pixels on that one. And now, because we are building the whole site and all the content in Artisteer, this is where you might want to add some extra blocks. But there's a trick I'll show you later. These blocks can contain all kinds of different things. They don't just have to contain basic text. They can have all sorts of special functions. So I'll show you that a bit later. Okay, just before I finish this section, one thing I don't like about this is this great big gap above the site. People might have different screen widths, but they'll also have different screen heights. So while I've got a big screen here, and you can see everything from the top of the screen and all these headers, you can see all of these images, these bullet points, you can also see the what we do heading. Well, some people might not be able to see that, right? Let me just minimize Artisteer again. Some people might only have a screen that's that big, so they only see that far down, or they might only be able to see this far down. so they might miss some vital information, and this to me is a waste of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the margin option, and I can see at the minute I'm on 50 pixels. So you see that's the top of the screen and that's the beginning of the website. So let me see what 30 pixels look like. It's a bit closer. 20 pixels. It's a bit closer. Maybe 10 pixels. Yeah. Or 0 pixels, so it'll actually touch the top of the screen. I think 10 pixels is okay because it gives it a nice effect, and it shows the website slightly off the background like that. So I'm happy with that. I've sliced a good 40 pixels off there, as you saw. And finally, if you don't like this thing, you see this white border. If you think it looks just like at the minute I've got my header just plonked on the page, and also wherever you've got all the you see here where I'm waving over the page content, there's this little gap. You can get rid of that by changing the padding. So you see this, it shows you visually a little bit of padding or a lot of padding. So that would be the content area there. Look, if I wave over this thing, it's going to give us a preview of it like that. But you can go right down to no padding, and it's going to get rid of that altogether so that it touches the edges like that. I personally think that looks a lot better for me, for what I'm trying to achieve, so I'll leave it that way. Okay, that's all for basic structure for now. I'm happy with the way it looks at the moment. We're going to change this header later on in the menu and all the rest of it. I'm just looking at basic structure of page layout, and I'm happy with that layout. So I'm going to move on to the next section now.